Good afternoon. Welcome back. There is something very interesting happening right now in the Langley condo market that piqued my interest, and I think it's going to pique your interest. All right. So here we are, apartments. I'm going to talk about specifically resale condos in Langley today because I include new construction and the chart is just all screwed up for some reason, but kind of irrelevant. So we're going to talk about specifically the resale market. Now, we're at all-time highs in inventory, right? When we go back here, something I quickly want to highlight about Langley before I get into this is Langley was a very different market 10 plus years ago, 10 to 15 years ago. And it was seen as a very different market as well, right? Like for example, 15 years ago, probably half of the condo inventory that currently exists in Langley was built in the last 10 years. It was mostly old people living on acreages that bought their homes in the 80s. And today it's seen as a hub for young people, growing families where it's very commutable. There's lots of amenities and it's basically a hub for young people now. So the whole dynamic of Langley has completely changed. It went from being the country to like a denser city center with a lot of traffic and a bunch of amenities, right? So when you look at what happened in the past and you try to compare it to today, it's difficult to take what happened in the past and use it as a future indicator for what's happening today, because I believe they're two completely different marketplaces now, especially when you're talking about the condo market, right? Now, again, before I show you what is very interesting about the condo market, I first want to let you guys know that my bias as a YouTuber is to actually create content that is negative. Believe it or not, I sell more real estate when I make negative content because it gets way more views, and just by the sheer number of people who watch the video, I'm more likely to get reach outs from the people who watch those videos. So I'm actually more inclined to make a video shitting on real estate than I am to make a positive one, right? And again, don't hate the player, hate the game, because the day you start clicking on my positive videos, then I will start making more of them. But that's not where we're at right now. That's not what the sentiment is. So all that being said, I still make the positive content and I still talk positively the odd time, because there are little glimpses of positivity in the real estate market, because I don't want to go against what I truly believe. So getting into this, all right, we're at all-time highs for inventory right now in the condo market in Langley. Sales, 82 sales, which you look like, I would say, yeah, this is right around where Langley's condo market changed, right around this 10-year mark. A lot more condos started getting built, and that's why you see this chart get a lot more aggressive basically post 2016, in my opinion, right? But you look at, you compare the last 10 years, sales aren't really low when you compare it in the last 10 years type of thing, right? And we look at the sales to actives, 20%. That's a seller's market. So I want you to think about this, all right? Inventory is at all-time highs. Sales are the lowest they've ever been in Canadian real estate history, adjusted for capita, I believe. And yet, Langley condos are still in a seller's market. Now, I'm not saying the prices are going to go up. I'm not saying the prices are going to skyrocket. But what I am saying is that it's interesting to see that this is pretty much the worst it's ever been, and Langley condos are still in a seller's market. And again, I believe this is because Langley's changed. People want to be in Langley. Like 50% of buyers I talk to want to be in Langley. They want to be specifically in Willoughby Heights. They want to be close to the highway. They want to be in a newer, safe area with lots of amenities. And that's what at least Willoughby Heights has to offer. When you talk about Langley City, that's a whole different dynamic. That's probably closer to like a Surrey Central. But when you talk about Willoughby Heights, that is like a gold mine of an area. That's like an end user utopia for the most part. So you have the worst real estate market we've ever seen, and it's still in a seller's market at 20%. So what happens when sentiment finally improves? Because I do think our market, obviously there's a dynamic that a lot of people are priced out. A lot of people are running out of money. Unemployment is higher, et cetera, et cetera. But there's also a really big element that this is a sentiment driven market, right? The market was really, really good in January. Very good. I thought we were going to have a ridiculously hot year going into February. Once the whole tariff discussion started, the market just completely shit. Buyers disappeared, and now they're slowly starting to come back. And basically sentiment at this point has priced in, or maybe not priced in, but sentiment is expecting the absolute worst case scenario. They are expecting a collapse to take place. What happens if people start noticing that that isn't happening, right? How many buyers come back off the sidelines and kind of stabilize this condo market? That is yet to be seen. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it is just some thoughts that I have had, right? Because under the worst case scenario, seller's market. Now we go into one bedrooms. One bedroom inventory again is very high, by far all-time highs right now. Sales again still looking pretty average for the last 10 years, and your sales to actives is at 23%, right? And actually, let's go back to all bedrooms. I want to show you guys this, right? So like pretty much, in the last 10 years, Langley Condos has been in a seller's market basically the entire time. Like there was one dip here during the lockdowns. I mean, you could pretty much cancel this May and April out, to be honest with you. That's pretty hard to say. Like, no, you couldn't even leave your house, right? How are you going to go buy a condo? And then you had December 2018 where it dropped slightly below into 19%. And then I think there was a month right here. Yeah, February 2025, it went into 19%. But other than that, and May 2025. But other than that, it's been in a seller's market the entire freaking last 10 years, right? And then you go back here and there was a long time where it was in balanced to buyer's market back here. But again, in my opinion, this is a much different market than what Langley is today. Now back into the one beds, again, 23% sales ratio. There was a couple dips down into balanced territory, but for the most part, you've mainly remained in seller's territory. We look at the two bedrooms, again, all-time high inventory, sales, kind of treading right in the center of that, where the last 10 years have been. And then you look at the sales to actives, and again, in a seller's market still. Now, what I want to highlight is your two-bedroom condos priced between $500,000 to $600,000 are selling through really well at still, 20% right now, but have been largely around 30% over the last year. And sometimes, this month, 100% of them sold through in February of 2024. And then your one bedroom's price $450,000 to $500,000 is at about 17%. But I wonder if I lower that to like 440 to 480, what would happen? 440, let's go 440 to 475 and see what that sales ratio would be for one bedrooms. 27%. Again, there's not a lot of sales data, so it's super choppy. But again, you look at, it's pretty much always in a seller's market when you want to get a one bedroom in that price range. So yeah, that's what's happening with Langley Condos right now. You have basically, the worst market we've ever seen, and Langley Condos are still in a seller's market because it's a very end user focused area. A lot of people want to move there. I talk to people every day that are moving from Vancouver or Calgary or Edmonton all the way over to 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐄𝐒 Heights, Langley, because you have the highway right there, tons of amenities, and it's a safe, aesthetically pleasing area. So the question is, what happens if and when sentiment actually improves? But I'm just a greasy realtor. Don't even consider my thoughts, not a prediction, but my thoughts. Don't even consider them 1 second. But if maybe you are considering my thoughts, you can book a time to chat with me down on the link below. Otherwise, I just appreciate you for watching, man. I'm that Agent Kelly. I'm making moves to move you. Peace.